There are places on Earth that seem as if they do not belong to our world. Places so isolated that reaching them takes days, and leaving them is a decision that only a few people ever make. At first glance, this is just a tiny settlement lost in the middle of an endless ocean. But the more we learn about it, the stranger the question becomes: why do people continue to live there? What makes them stay in a place cut off from almost everything we call the modern world? Today we are visiting one of the most isolated inhabited places on the planet, and we will uncover a story that is far more mysterious than it appears. At this very moment, there is a place on Earth that you simply cannot leave. Not because of bad weather, not because of money, not because of paperwork or restrictions. There is simply no way. There is no airport, no helipad, no ferry service. The only way to leave is by ship, and the next ship may not arrive for months. You are more than 1,500 miles from the nearest inhabited land, about 2,700 miles from Cape Town, and approximately 3,700 miles from South America. This is the middle of the most remote ocean on the planet. There, on a dark volcanic peak rising from the endless waters of the South Atlantic, about 250 people live their daily lives. While we are talking about them, they are probably having breakfast and beginning another day on the most isolated inhabited island on Earth. But the real mystery is not where they live. The real mystery is why they stay. In 1961, the volcano on which their home was built erupted. The entire population, 264 people, was evacuated to England. 2 years later, the British government offered them a new life, permanent homes, jobs, and all the conveniences of a modern country. Their answer was short: no. They went back. Almost all of them. Why would anyone choose to live in a place that seems completely cut off from the rest of the world? To understand that, we first have to understand where Tristan da Cunha is. Or, more accurately, how far it is from everything else. The nearest inhabited land is St. Helena, the island where Napoleon Bonaparte spent the final years of his life in exile. St. Helena itself is considered one of the most isolated places on Earth, and yet it lies more than 1,500 miles away from Tristan da Cunha. Africa is about 2,700 miles to the northeast. South America is nearly 3,700 miles to the west. Even Antarctica lies more than 1,700 miles to the south. In every direction, there is nothing but ocean. There are no regular passenger routes, no airlines, no ferry services. Only 6 to 8 supply ships arrive each year from Cape Town after a voyage of about 7 days across the open ocean. They bring everything the island cannot produce on its own: fuel, medicine, machinery, and the small comforts of the modern world. They also bring the island's rare visitors. Researchers, ornithologists, and travelers who have already been almost everywhere else on Earth and now want to reach a place that feels like the edge of the map. And sometimes on board, there is simply a Tristanian returning home. But Tristan da Cunha is not merely a volcanic island. It is the volcano itself. Its summit, Queen Mary's Peak, rises more than 6,700 feet above sea level. But that is not the mountain's true height. Its base lies on the floor of the South Atlantic Ocean, more than 37,000 feet below the surface. Measured from its base, this underwater giant is more than 14,000 feet taller than Mount Everest. Most of it is never seen. What you observe from the deck of a ship is only the tip of an enormous mountain rising from the depths of the ocean. Almost the entire coastline consists of sheer black basalt cliffs, against which the waves of the Southern Ocean crash with tremendous force. And yet there is one small place where those cliffs give way. A narrow lava plain, barely 1 mile wide and 3 miles long. That is where Edinburgh of the Seven Seas stands. Population, about 250 people. The only village, the only permanent human settlement on the most isolated inhabited island on Earth. They built it there not because the place was convenient, but because there was no other option. And for more than 200 years, the people here have remained by choice. There is only one major employer on the island, a company called Edinburgh Sea Products. It processes and exports the spiny lobster that lives in the cold, crystal clear waters surrounding Tristan da Cunha. These waters are among the least polluted on the planet. That is why Tristan lobsters are considered some of the most prized in the world. Restaurants in New York and Tokyo pay premium prices. But even here, nothing comes easily. The island has no true harbor. The coastline makes it impossible to build a conventional dock. Instead, the residents use long, flat-bottomed boats. Launching one of these boats is an event involving the entire community. The boat is carried to the shore. The fishermen climb aboard. People on land push. The rowers pull. And together, through experience, perfect timing, and knowledge passed down through generations, they guide the vessel through the crashing waves. Just 250 people maintain one of the healthiest fishing industries in the world. But perhaps even more remarkable is the wildlife. The animals here are not afraid of people. There are no land predators on the island. For thousands of years, many species have never had a reason to run or hide. Tristan da Cunha is home to approximately 80% of the world's population of northern rockhopper penguins, 80% of an entire species on a single island. This is also where wandering albatrosses nest, the largest flying birds on Earth. During their lifetimes, they can travel more than 5 million miles through the air, a distance greater than 200 round trips to the moon. And yet they always return here, to this small, lonely archipelago in the middle of the ocean. Perhaps that is one of the island's secrets. In September of 2024, an unusual shipment arrived on Tristan da Cunha, a Starlink terminal. For the first time, the most remote inhabited island on Earth gained reliable broadband internet access. Before that, its 250 residents shared an internet connection of only a few megabits per second. Video calls and streaming were nearly impossible. Everything changed overnight. Suddenly, the children of Tristan had access to the same educational resources as their peers in London or New York. But the island remains cautious. What happens when a place that built its identity around isolation suddenly becomes connected to the entire world? How much of the outside world should be allowed in? And how do you embrace change without losing yourself? When the people of Tristan were living in England after the volcanic eruption, they were often asked what they missed most. Their answers were nearly identical. They missed the silence. Not the absence of sound, but the silence of a world where the only noises come from the wind, the ocean, and the wildlife. They missed the scale of the place. The endless ocean in every direction, the mountain towering above the village, and the night sky, brighter and filled with more stars than anything they had ever seen in England. Remember the albatross, the bird that can circle the globe countless times and yet always returns here, not because it is forced to, but because this is the place it knows. The people of Tristan seem to think in much the same way. They have seen another world. They have seen great cities and all the conveniences of modern life, and yet they made their choice. People know me here. This is home. In the local dialect, there is an expression that describes the feeling of returning to the island after a long absence, to come back to yourself. Because for these people, the island is not simply the place where they live, it is part of who they are. Perhaps that is why the greatest mystery of Tristan da Cunha is not its isolation. It is not the volcano, it is not the ocean, it is not even the fact that only 250 people live on the most remote inhabited island on Earth. The real mystery is that for more than 200 years, a small community has continued to make the same choice, to stay. Because sometimes home is not the place that offers you the most. Home is the place that allows you to be the most yourself. If this story made you think about what home truly means and why some people are willing to remain in a place that seems like the end of the world, support the video. Could you live on the most isolated inhabited island on Earth? Or would you leave forever on the first ship? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoy stories about extraordinary places, mysterious communities, and human stories that seem almost unreal, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next documentary investigations. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. Your time and interest make stories like these possible. Until our next journey to one of the most extraordinary places on our planet.